Hello, it's Willie from the Ozarks and ready for our January 23rd lesson in A Course in Miracles workbook for students from the original edition, Lesson 23. I can escape from the world I see by giving up attack thoughts. I can escape from the world I see by giving up attack thoughts. The idea for today contains the only way out of fear that will ever succeed. Nothing else will work. Everything else is meaningless. But this way cannot fail. Every thought you have makes up some segment of the world you see. It is with your thoughts, then, that we must work if your perception of the world is to be changed. If the cause of the world you see is attack thoughts, you must learn that it is these thoughts which you do not want. There is no point in lamenting the world. There is no point in trying to change the world. It is incapable of change because it is merely an effect. But there is indeed a point in changing your thoughts about the world. Here you are changing the cause. The effects will change automatically. The world you see is a vengeful world, and everything in it is a symbol of vengeance. Learned that yesterday. Each of your perceptions of external reality is a pictorial representation of your own attack thoughts. One can well ask if this can be called seeing. Is not fantasy a better word for such a process, and hallucination a more appropriate term for the result? You see the world which you made, but you do not see yourself as the image maker. You cannot be saved from the world, but you can escape from its cause. This is what salvation means. For where is the world when its cause is gone? This is what salvation means. For where is the world you see when its cause is gone? Vision already holds a replacement for everything you think you see now. Loveliness can light your images and so transform them that you will love them even though they were made of hate. For you will not be making them alone. The idea for today introduces the thought that you are not trapped in the world you see because its cause can be changed, your thoughts. This change requires first that the cause be identified and then let go so that it can be replaced. The first two steps in this process require your cooperation to identify the cause of that you're, and then to let it go. But the third one, to have the thought of vengeance, for instance, be replaced, is done by the Holy Spirit. The first two steps in this process require your cooperation. The final one does not. Your images have already been replaced. By taking the first two steps, you will see that this is so. Besides using it throughout the day as the need arises, 5 practice periods are required in applying today's idea. So use it throughout the day. Say to yourself, I can escape from the world I see by giving up attack thoughts whenever you feel yourself either being attacked or you feel like attacking. As you look out about you, repeat the idea slowly to yourself and then close your eyes and devote about a minute to searching your mind for as many attack thoughts as occur to you. As each one crosses your mind, say, I can escape the world by giving up attack thoughts about. I can escape from the world by giving up attack thoughts about blank. And then say what you're seeing, either with your eyes or in your mind. Hold each attack thought in mind as you say this, and then dismiss that thought and go on to the next. We're working with the world of thought, aren't we? In the practice periods, be sure to include both your thoughts of attacking and of being attacked. Their effects are exactly the same because they are exactly the same. You do not recognize this yet, and you are asked at this time only to treat them as the same in today's practice periods. We are still at the stage of identifying the cause of the world you see. When you finally realize that thoughts of attack and of being attacked are not different, you will be ready to let the cause go. Okay, well, no sense in keeping a thought that doesn't make us happy, is it? All right, let's go take a look in our text reading. We have a lot to look at. I said I was going to give you an assignment yesterday, and then I didn't do it, but I think I kind of had. You all know we're going to take about 3 days for each chapter, and it's what we've been doing, and we'll just be sure to read it. And if you want an assignment, read it before I talk and after. That would be a good assignment. If you don't need that assignment, don't worry about it. Just listen in and do what you feel like doing. Follow your guidance and your inner guidance. All right, but I would encourage you to at least read the chapter once, okay? And read about a little what we're going to talk about. Like I said, for these last 4 chapters, we're going to be going 7, 8, 9, or 8, 9, and 10. We're finishing 7 today. We'll take about 3 days per. We'll finish the manual for teachers after that. Then we're going to start with chapter 12 and read through it, but we'll do that together. And you can read it on your own too. I'd encourage that always. The defense of conflict. We've got a lot to read today. So, wow, and I've already taken 6 minutes. Let's read this first in chapter 7, the consistency of the kingdom, the defense of conflict. We once said that without projection there can be no anger, but it is also true that without projection there can be no love. Projection is a fundamental law of the mind and therefore one which always operates. It is the law by which you create and were created. It is the law which unifies the kingdom and keeps it in the mind of God. To the ego, the law is perceived as a way of getting rid of something it did not want. To the Holy Spirit is the fundamental law of sharing, by which you give what you value in order to keep it in your own mind. Projection to the Holy Spirit is the law of extension. To the ego, it is the law of deprivation. You cannot perpetuate an illusion about another without perpetuating it about yourself. There is no way out of this because it is impossible to fragment the mind. 88, do not be afraid of the ego. It does depend on your mind, and as you made it by believing in it, so you can dispel it by withdrawing your belief from it. Do not project the responsibility for your belief in it onto anyone else, or you will preserve the belief. When you're willing to accept sole responsibility for the ego's existence yourself, you have laid aside all anger and all attack, because they come from an attempt to project responsibility for your own errors. But having accepted the errors as yours, do not keep them. Give them over quickly to the Holy Spirit to be undone completely, so that all their effects will vanish from your minds and from the sonship as a whole. The next section, the extension of the kingdom, section 10. Let me read the last couple sentences in that section. The Holy Spirit will direct you only so as to avoid pain. The undoing of pain must obviously avoid pain. Surely no one would object to this goal if you recognized it. The problem is not whether what the Holy Spirit says is true, but whether you want to listen to what He says. The next section, 11, the confusion of strength and weakness. That first paragraph says, obey the Holy Spirit and you will be giving up the ego, but you will be sacrificing nothing. On the contrary, you will be gaining everything. If you believed this, there would be no conflict. And the last section, 12, the state of grace. I want to read paragraph 110 and 111. You who could give the love of God to everything you see and touch and remember are literally denying heaven to yourselves. I call upon you again to remember that I have chosen you to teach the kingdom to the kingdom. There are no exceptions to this lesson because the lack of exceptions is the lesson. Every son who returns to the kingdom with his lesson in his heart has healed the sonship and given thanks to God. Everyone who learns this lesson has become the perfect teacher because he has learned it of the Holy Spirit who wants to teach him everything he knows. When a mind has only light, it knows only light. Its radiance shines all around it and extends out into the darkness of other minds, transforming them into majesty. The majesty, and this was actually 110 and 111, not the last 2 paragraphs of the chapter. 111, the majesty of God is there for you to recognize and appreciate and know. perceiving the majesty of God as your brother is to accept your inheritance. Perceiving the majesty of God as your brother is to accept your own inheritance. God gives only equally. If you recognize His gift in anyone else, you have acknowledged what He has given you. Nothing is as easy to perceive as truth. This is the perception which is immediate, clear, and natural. You have trained yourself not to see it, and this has been very difficult for you. Out of your natural environment, you may well ask, what is truth? Since truth is the environment by which and for which you were created. All right, isn't that beautiful? So read ahead the next 3 or 4 sections to chapter 8, the journey back. Read the introduction and on, okay? Read about 6-8 pages there. All right, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. Let's go look in our manual for teachers, and we're ready. It's a little longer reading. How do God's teachers deal with their pupils' thoughts of magic? And just keep in mind that magic thoughts are any thought, the way I like to think of it, any thought that doesn't take into account your oneness. All right? All right, now let's look at this. While you're turning there, Brandywine Tomatoes are one that my friend Jerry told me about first. And I found these in the Seed Savers Exchange. Look what it says about these seeds. Introduced by Johnson & Stokes in 1889 from seeds received from a customer in Ohio, named after Brandywine Creek in Chester County, Pennsylvania, Amish country there. Large vines produce deep red 8 to 12 ounce fruits, excellent flavor, very productive, indeterminate, 80 days from transplant. I think back about spending time with my my children's mother in Chester County for several weeks or months as a young person, just out exploring the world. Met some really beautiful people there. All right, ready for how do God's teachers deal with their pupils' thoughts of magic? And we'll just read through it, and I won't do a lot of talking, okay? Other than just reading it. This is a crucial question both for teacher and pupil. If this issue is mishandled, the teacher has hurt himself and also has attacked his pupil. This strengthens fear and makes the magic seem quite real to both of them. How to deal with magic thus becomes a major lesson for the teacher of God to master. His first responsibility in this is not to attack it. If a magic thought arouses anger in any form, God's teacher can be sure that he is strengthening his own belief in sin and has condemned himself. He can be sure as well that he has asked for depression, pain, fear, and disaster to come to him. Let him remember then, it is not this that he would teach, because it is not this that he would learn. There is, however, a temptation to respond to magic in a way that reinforces it. Nor is this always obvious. In fact, it can be easily concealed beneath a wish to help. It is this double wish that makes the help of little value and must lead to undesired outcomes. Nor should it be forgotten that the outcome that results will always come to a teacher and to pupil. How many times has it been emphasized that you give but to yourself? And where could this be better shown than in the kinds of help the teacher gives to those who need his aid? Here is his gift most clearly given him, for he will give only what he has chosen for himself. And in this gift is his judgment upon the Holy Son of God. It is easiest to let error be corrected where it is most apparent, and errors can be recognized by their results. A lesson truly taught can lead to nothing but release for teacher and pupil who have shared in one intent. Attack can enter only if perception of separate goals has entered. And this must indeed have been the case if the result is anything but joy. Let joy be your guide. The single aim of the teacher turns the divided goal of the pupil into one direction, with the call for help becoming his one appeal. This then is easily responded to with just one answer, and this answer will enter the teacher's mind unfailingly. That's the miracle. From there it shines into his pupil's mind, making it one with his. There's another miracle. Perhaps it will be helpful to remember that no one can be angry at a fact. It is always an interpretation that gives rise to negative emotions, regardless of their seeming justification by what appears as facts. Remember, it's your interpretation, not the very fact. Regardless, too, of the intensity of the anger that it is aroused. It may be merely slight irritation, perhaps too mild to even be clearly recognized, or it may also take the form of intense rage, accompanied by thoughts of violence, fantasized or apparently acted out. It does not matter. All of these reactions are the same. They obscure the truth, and this can never be a matter of degree. Either truth is apparent or it is not. It cannot be partially recognized. Who is unaware of truth must look upon illusions. Anger in response to perceived magic thoughts is the basic cause of fear. Anger in response to perceived magic thoughts is the basic cause of fear. Consider what this reaction means, and its centrality in the world's thought system becomes apparent. A magic thought, by its mere presence, acknowledges a separation from God. That's how I look at magic thoughts. They're just any kind of a thought, a belief, an idea that thinks that you're separate from God, and you're going to try to think up a magical solution to make you happy, something that's not real, an illusion. An illusion. A magic thought, by its mere presence, acknowledges a separation from God. It states in the clearest form possible that the mind which thinks it believes it has a separate will that can oppose the will of God and succeed. That this can hardly be a fact is obvious, yet that it can be believed as fact is surely so. And herein lies the birthplace of guilt. Let's read it again. A magic thought, by its mere presence, acknowledges a separation from God. It states in the clearest form possible that the mind which thinks it believes it has a separate will that can oppose the will of God and succeed. That this can hardly be a fact is obvious, yet that it can be believed as fact is surely so. And herein lies the birthplace of guilt. Who usurps the place of God and takes it for himself now has a deadly enemy. And he must stand alone in his protection and make himself a shield to keep him safe from fury that can never be abated and vengeance that can never be satisfied. How can this unfair battle be resolved? Its ending is inevitable, for its outcome must be death. How then can one believe in one's defenses? Magic again must help. You got to create an illusion to get you out of an illusion that you're separate from God. Forget the battle, is what the illusion tells you. Forget the battle, accept it as a fact, and then forget it. Do not remember the impossible odds against you. Do not remember the immensity of the enemy, and do not think about your frailty in comparison. Accept your separation, but do not remember how it came about. Believe that you have won it, but do not retain the slightest memory of who your great opponent really is, because it's you. Projecting your forgetting onto him, it seems to you he has forgotten too. But what will now be your reaction to all magic thoughts? They can but reawaken sleeping guilt, which you have hidden but have not let go. Each one says clearly to your frightened mind, you have usurped the place of God. That's what those magic thoughts and the ego is trying to get you to do. But that's what we want to learn to not do, because it doesn't make us joy, it doesn't give us peace. Think not he has forgotten. Here we have the fear of God most starkly represented. For in that thought has guilt already raised madness to the throne of God himself. And now there is no hope except to kill. Here is salvation now. An angry father pursues his guilty son. Kill or be killed, for here alone is choice. Beyond this there is none, for what was done cannot be done without. The stain of blood can never be removed, and anyone who bears this stain on him must meet with death. Oh my goodness. This is why the ego kind of leads us, though, is what he's trying to explain. Into this hopeless situation, God sends his teachers. They bring the light of hope from God himself. There is a way in which escape is possible. It can be learned and taught, but it requires patience and abundant willingness. Given that, the lesson's manifest simplicity stands out like an intense white light against a black horizon, for such it is. If anger comes from an interpretation and not a fact, it is never justified, because you can always think of an interpretation that allows you to be happy. Once this is dimly grasped, once this is even dimly grasped, that anger comes from an interpretation, not a fact, and it is never justified, once this is even dimly grasped, the way is open. Now it is possible to take the next step. The interpretation can be changed at last. Magic thoughts need not lead to condemnation, for they do not really have the power to give rise to guilt. And so they can be overlooked and thus forgotten in the truest sense. We just simply see they're illusions based on nothing. An idea that we're separate from God, which is not true. Separate from love, which is not true. And the last paragraph, madness but seems terrible. Madness but seems terrible. In truth, it has no power to make anything, like the magic which becomes its servant. It neither attacks nor protects. To see it and to recognize its thought system is to look on nothing. Can nothing give rise to anger? Hardly so. Remember then, teacher of God, that anger recognizes a reality that is not there. Yet it is the anger certain witness that you do believe it is a fact. Yet is the anger certain witness that you do believe in it as fact. Now is escape impossible until you see you have responded to your own interpretation, which you have projected on an outside world. Let this grim sword be taken from you now. There is no death. This sword does not exist. The fear of God is causeless, but his love is cause of everything beyond all fear, and thus forever real and always true. Wow, what a beautiful, beautiful reading, and it goes so well with our lesson today. I can escape from the world I see by giving up attack thoughts. So we're going to do that today 5 times for about a minute. Start off by just looking around and saying, I can escape from the world I see by giving up attack thoughts. And then close your mind for about a minute and observe your thoughts and say to each attack thought, whether you're attacking in the thought or whether you're being attacked or whether somebody else is being attacked, regardless of where the attack is seen, tell yourself, I can escape from the world by giving up attack thoughts about, and then specify what you're seeing. Until tomorrow, I can escape from the world I see by giving up attack thoughts. I can escape. This is beautiful, beautiful freedom. I can escape from the world I see by giving up the cause of all the problems, which is attack thoughts. I can escape from the world I see by giving up attack thoughts.